Guys, welcome back to HPL. We just saw Dog tie up the series versus Kranich at 1 game apiece. Back to his roots on Druid after he lost to that first Shaman game. Always happy to see him play that deck.
Yeah, you've got to expect him to queue up Druid early and often here in this match. Now, you saw Kranich get an early 1-0 lead with Rogue. He queued it up again, but Dog brought Druid in game 2, and he showed you why he wins more often than he loses with it. He had a great opening, kind of puttered out a tiny bit in the middle of the game, but then finished really, really strong with a combo to kill him.
Yeah, even put Harrison Jones into that deck, so a very key point for him in that game was pulling away a 3-power weapon from Kranich, picking up the extra options, and getting that 5-4 body on the board. And then at the very end, of course, that ever dangerous turn from Druid. Force of Nature and Savage Roar completely blowing Kranich out of the water.
Yeah, I believe he did something like 97 damage that turn or something. I think he was padding his stats here on HPL. He wanted to make sure that his DEH was just off the charts, because you saw it before the game that his DEH is actually a lot higher than average Druids, and then you saw it come out in that game, and that's why. He executed his plan. He played for the board, he got some minions to stick, and then he killed him with a Savage Roar.
Yeah, guys, game 3 is ready between these two. They've made some changes to their deck. Maybe, we don't know. Anything can happen. They're allowed to do whatever they want. Get out there on Twitter. Use that hashtag HPL. Anything can happen. Dog used a Nat Pagel in game 1, guys. I haven't seen Nat Pagel in play in about 2 decades. If you would have told me to guess 100 cards that we were going to see today, Nat Pagel wouldn't have been anywhere near that top 100 list.
I mean, I think my dad used to use it when he played Hearthstone in his day. It's been a while since we've seen Nat Pagel, but you've got to believe that Dog is going to stick with Druid, because, you know, I feel that he thinks he didn't even have like an amazing draw. You know, his Innervate was good, but not great that game. He didn't get a super early Emperor Thaurissan. And, I mean, it's his bread and butter. Like, why wouldn't you play it?
Yeah, I mean, he did have Wild Growth. He did have 2 Shades of Naxxramas, which he chose to unleash those Shades at the exact right times. Everything kind of fell right into place. You know, finding very favorable spots to kill minions with those Shades, put a lot of pressure on Kranich. They had a 6-2 and a 5-1 sitting out with that Emperor Thaurissan. Guys, game 3 is getting underway. Dog versus Kranich.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they queue up here. I'm fully expecting Dog to queue up Druid again.
Well, he's going to go with the first appearance now of Grim Patron Warrior that we've seen in HPL, and I could not be happier to see it.
Yeah, it's becoming the boogeyman of ranked play lately. This just seems like you either are playing this deck or you're playing a deck that can beat this deck. And you know what? Kranich is playing one of the decks that's been fighting it for superiority here lately in what looks like Handlock.
Yeah, Big Game Hunter not going to be a big effect in this matchup. You know, traditionally, Warriors used to play tons of big minions at that top end, but this really only plays Grommash. And now, call me crazy, but I don't see Grommash very often unless it's actually killing your opponent.
Yeah, usually the only time you beat Grommash is when he kills you. The only time Big Game Hunter could be good in this matchup is, as you said, if they have a Grommash going on, or they've comboed out with a Frothing Berserker and made him, you know, a gigantic thing, but usually it kills you that turn.
Yeah, look at Dog, by the way, very on point, understanding exactly how Kranich is going to play. This Emperor Thaurissan got kept in his opening hand, so he's not expecting Zoo from Kranich in a matchup like this. No aggressive strategies is what he expects to see, and that could potentially pay off in spades for him.
Yeah, it's just one of your best cards in one of the best decks. Like, it's so good to just have this card and know that you're going to be able to play it on turn 6. It makes your combo so much easier to play on turn 7 and 8 and get through it, because he has a ton of ways to cycle in this deck. You already see 2 Loot Hoarders, both of which are going to garnish him some card advantage, get him deeper in his deck, find his combo pieces. He already has a Battle Rage, so when this Emperor comes into play, look for it to have a big impact this game.
Yeah, Kranich also kind of on top of things too, really understanding where the metagame's at. He kept this Mortal Coil in his opening hand, knows that Grim Patron Warriors are going to play 2 copies of Loot Hoarder right now, so able to make sure that those are in check, not getting in a ton of points of damage, able to dig himself. It's not a very strong draw pretty much at any step of the game in this matchup, except versus something like Loot Hoarder. And look at this, he gets it on turn 3 now. Has the option of Mortal Coil here, and then if he wants, continue to take some blowback, find himself those options, get cards in his hand so he can play Mountain Giant, or he could play the Ancient Watcher if he wants to. I gotta favor the options here.
Great draw here at Twilight Drake. The prototypical 4-drop that Handlock just wants every game, and that is going to be quite a big Twilight Drake too.
Yeah, multiple ways to make sure that he uses this too. I mean, he could go with Mountain Giant, or he could go with Twilight Drake here. There's 2 different ways to think about this. Oh, second Twilight Drake too. So many big threats in Kranich's hand. If he plays the Twilight Drake this turn, he has the option next turn to use Life Tap and play Mountain Giant afterwards. He's going to get 2 extra cards as he rolls in that turn. So that's a 3-mana Mountain Giant. Now, if he plays the Mountain Giant first, he risks something like an Execute potentially being too big of an impact. So I kind of like the Twilight Drake here. It's not quite as threatening, and it also doesn't leave you quite as vulnerable.
And you see Dog searching for a little damage here because he's already got a bunch of pieces of the combo. He might be able to play Emperor Thorson even next turn, making a ton of cards in his hand cost less. And you know what? He might be able to combo out very quickly against Kranich here this game.
Yeah, I got to fully expect that Emperor Thorson is coming out next turn. I mean, he saved the coin almost specifically for this situation. And just like we talked about, there's that Mountain Giant. Massive threats from Kranich here. Now, the question here is if he's going to continue to play for the board or choose to push damage here. And he's actually going to keep this board under control. And I kind of like this here because something like Frothing Berserker can get really out of hand if there's too much stuff on the board. And the fact that he's got a 4/7 out means that he's getting massively favorable trades with stuff like Gnomish Inventor.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting turn for Dog here as well. If he plays Emperor Thorson and passes, Kranich has a ton of damage to throw at him in the next turn. He's got 12 on board and more to back it up, including some taunters. So Dog, he's kind of behind the 8 ball here a little bit. He's going to need to find a way to win very quickly.
Yeah, I think Warsong Commander is one of the best draws in his deck right now.
That's what he's missing, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
he just needs to get that extra charge out there so he can utilize all these minions. Emperor Thorson, though, this isn't a minion that Kranich is just going to leave around, and he's got multiple ways to deal with it. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how he does it, though, because just like you said, he can start pushing for damage at this point. He's got a massive amount of it out. I mean, that could very easily be what he chooses to do here.
I mean, he's got a ton of options here. He can double Dark Bomb it. He can run either one of his creatures into it using a removal spell or just eating it with the Giant here.
He can even just silence it and just say, here's your 5/5.
Yeah, here, have a 5/5. I've got, gigantic monsters on the board right now. He can also taunt up if he wants to here. He's got a ton of options. His hand is chock full of good ones.
You're seeing why this deck is so difficult to navigate, by the way. This is one of the perfect examples of it. Obviously, Kranich has a very strong draw, but something that's happening here is that he's got so many options that he only has a limited time to work with them. So familiarity with this deck, very, very important. So going to choose not to put a 1 health minion on the board. Doesn't want any whirlwind shenanigans happening. I like this line of play here. And Dog just, I mean, like you said, he's falling behind. I mean, this is so much damage that's coming, and he really needs an Execute to get drawn.
Here, he really needs to draw an Execute. He's going to be able to cycle a card here if he wants. He's going to need the Battle Rage. Battle Raging for 1, not always the best play. If he really wants to, he can even damage he can play a Corsair for free here and then damage it to give it extra power here and then draw extra cards that way. It just matters how much deeper Dog wants to get in his deck and if he thinks he can win this over the next turn or two, because you know what? I don't think he's got more than 1 or 2 turns left.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. I mean, that's 16 damage he's staring down right now. So gotta make something happen here. So not gonna take any blowback here with his weapon. I spoke too soon. Apparently he's going to.
Yeah, he's gonna play a free Dread Corsair here and then Whirlwind, get maximum amount of armor, maximum amount of damage to your own minions here, and then draw a lot of extra cards here with the Battle Rage.
Yeah, this is a
really good play here from Dog.
Picking up 4 cards is super important. I mean, that's a 1 mana sprint that he just set up here. The Whirlwind is effectively a preparation in this spot. And then
He
the
needs
Battle
a
Rage.
Warsong Commander really bad. And the last card drawn, Warsong Commander. That might be able to win him this game next turn. It's very possible.
A lot of potential damage coming in. Dr. Boom gets drawn. This is still anyone's game. It's wide open now. And again, Kranich with a ton of options on his side. And I gotta wonder, I mean, can you even think about going for board control right now? Running 8 power minions into 1/3s or 2/1s doesn't seem like a very...
It's a really bad feeling, but he might have to do it here. He knows that Dog just sprinted, as you said, for 1 mana last turn. He drew 4 cards, so it's very possible that he has all the pieces of the combo that he needs. So it's gonna be interesting to see how defensively or how offensively he plays this turn. And I really expect to see him taunt help at least a few times this turn.
That's definitely, I think, a very viable option for him. But again, gonna have to take his time. I mean, this is also a very big Dr. Boom turn. You know, this is something that is always very scary for opponents. Is when Dr. Boom hits the board. Dog happens to have basically the exact right answer to do something about this. But there it is. There's a taunts. So gonna keep his Mountain Giant protected as long as he can. I think he's very confident in the fact that there's no executes on Dog's side of the board. Just going to start pushing for damage here. Second Battle Rage gets picked up, but no Whirlwinds here. That's such a key card to setting up something like Frothing Berserker with charge is something like Whirlwind.
He's really hoping to draw a Whirlwind there, maybe a Death Spike to be able to have a Whirlwind effect next turn if he lives through this one. Yeah, Dog not finding every piece of the combo that he needed. He drew the Warsaw Commander last turn, which is one of the pieces he was missing, but he had to kind of, use this Whirlwind as a mini sprint last turn, as you said.
Yeah, staring down a 4-8 taunt and a 4-5 taunt, by the way, is not the spot you want to be in with Grim Patron Warrior.
Absolutely not. You want to be the one controlling the board, and that's not happening right now. Kranich, he's got huge minions on the other side of the board, multiple of them with taunt. Dog's gonna have to fight his way through this, and I don't know if he has enough to do it.
Well, might start with Battle Rage, but we're gonna have to find out exactly what's happening. I mean,
Kranich has 18 power in play. Dog is at 19, so it's gonna be interesting to see if he can get through this turn. Both Dark Bombs have been cast. I believe Kranich has used both Dark Bombs already this game, so he probably doesn't have any direct damage left.
Maybe Hellfire, but that's about it. I mean, he's got to draw some cards. He's so deep into his deck too. He's gonna decide that just Battle Rage is enough. There's a two Death Spites. That's not what he wanted. He needed an Execute here.
That's not what he needed. He really, really needed to find an Execute out of his deck. He's got to be well over halfway into his deck, and he hasn't seen an Execute now. This got to be depressing here for Dog.
He's running out of time too. I mean, I personally don't see a very strong line of play in a situation like this. Just gonna go with Grim Patron, Inner Rage, try to get something out. I mean, maybe this will distract Kranich and encourage him to attack your minions, but again, just so much damage on his side of the board for it. Emperor Thorson gets added to the hand. Grim Patrons are such a scary minion here. Kranich doesn't have lethal in this position, and so he's gotta start thinking about how out of hand could these Grim Patrons actually get?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Kranich is going to have to play a little defensively this turn, and because you're always worried about the Grim Patron deck. They can just do so much damage out of nowhere, and I like this play from Dog because, as you said, it's a distracting play to your opponent. They might not, attack you in the way they want. Oh, that was actually a pretty big draw for Kranich there, anti-Killbot. Not a bad one. It's going to be able to gain him 8 life here if he wants, but it's going to be interesting to see if he trades off, eats some of these minions, or if he just goes face.
Yeah, I mean, the 2-3 into the 5-2, that's the easy one.
Very
I
clean,
think this is the one that's happening, more often than not. But now the question is, do you kill this other Grim Patron? I personally, right now, with a hand like this, would tend to favor board control. You have so many options. You have so many ways to keep killing minions. If this game gets extended, it's all but one at this point because you can basically just start choking Dog out of the game. We've seen both Battle Rages at this point. He's got a lot of cards left in his hand, but you're sitting behind some big taunts right now.
Yeah, he doesn't have an Execute because of the way that he's played the game. You've already seen him play 2 as Battle Rage, you said, so he can't do like a super diggy turn. I think what you're going to see is him do a lot of board. He's going to do a lot of board control this turn and just set up the win for next turn and just sit behind this Emperor Thorson.
Yeah, favoring the extra health on the taunt minion, I think it's pretty smart in a situation like this. There's an Execute, but that might be too little too late. At this point, the Mountain Giant's already taken 6 points of damage, and a effective 2 damage Execute is not the kind of deal I'm usually looking for out of that card.
Yeah, thanks, deck. You're a little late to the party. Yeah, as we said, the Execute is quite late here. Been very good last turn or the turn before, and Dog was digging for it. You saw him cast some very, very big Battle Rages and create board states to draw a ton of cards off Battle Rages, but he didn't get the exact cards that he needed, and this is what happens sometimes with combo decks.
Yeah, so, I mean, the story of this game is kind of that his draws have been very much in the wrong order. I think he would have loved to see that Execute very early as well as the Death Spites, get those set up for these big Grim Patron turns, because he doesn't have any Whirlwind effects in his hand now aside from Death Spites. But the only way he can trigger this right now is either by taking too much more blowback than he's comfortable taking, or by playing the second Death Spite to get rid of it to trigger that, and that's 4 mana that's going to be consumed. He doesn't want to be investing 4 mana into a Whirlwind effect. He wants to be getting on the board and trying to find ways to combo these cards.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a weird spot for this deck. He's in a spot where he's having to play not to die, and that's not what you want to be doing with Grim Patron. You want to be playing to win, and there's not a lot of lines from him right now that can win him the game.
Yeah, here we go. There's first bit of blowback taken here. Just going to armor up and continue to pad that life total. Hope it works out for him. 9, looks like 13 damage. 14, 15 damage on Kranich's side of the board now. He could silence that Ancient Watcher to push through 4 more points of damage. But I mean, it takes a taunt minion off the board. It is threatened anyway.
Yeah, if he owls the guy and then defenders,
he's got 15 total damage there. Yeah, so that
yeah.
armor up actually saved Dog for 1 more turn. And this is the situation I was just speaking about. He's taking more blowback than he's comfortable with. He's doing it to try to give himself the best chance to win. I mean, that's what he's got to do.
Yeah, it looks like Kranich's going to tap here. He's going to make his Molten Giant a little bit cheaper. I gotta assume he's going to get a Molten Giant and maybe possibly try to heal up or taunt up a little bit more this turn. Just play defensively while trying to kill Kranich. I mean, Dog next turn.
Yeah, lot of different options from him. Again, just showing you how deep this deck. One of the reasons this deck is so powerful, it just continues to have massive options throughout the course of the game. If you're not under heavy pressure, you can continue to take flowback from that hero power, give yourself more options, and just extend that crushing lead. Look, he just even wants more options.
Yeah, Mortar Coiling his own guy here just to get the extra card and make his Molten Giant, you know, stay at the same mana cost here.
Yeah, so he's going to taunt up here. This is massive threats now for Dog. I don't know how he's going to get out of this one. I mean, typically we don't see Brawl in these Grim Patron decks. This draw is going to basically, I think, decide what's going on here. Second Warsong Commander. I don't think this is going to be enough, but let's see how he navigates this turn. He's got 9 mana available to him. If he wants to play Frothing Berserker, Warsong Commander, and Grim Patron, not necessarily in that order, that's the full 9 mana right there. And he's only at 8, so how can he leverage his life total in a favorable spot right now?
Yeah, I don't think he can get through enough to clear enough minions to live through the next turn. It looks like Dog's not going to have enough to clean up this board enough to live, and it looks like Kranich is going to go up 2 on our match. But, I mean, there are a ton of options. As you said, there's a lot of Frothing Berserker, Warsong Commander turns that can go on, and he can gain a decent bit of life of Armor Smith too. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he navigates this turn.
I mean, what I see offhand is using Warsong Commander, Frothing Berserker, Grim Patron. The swing from the Death Spite's going to take out Emperor Thorson, but it's going to drop you to 5. The Frothing Berserker is going to get enough power to kill the Molten Giant, and then you have 2 Grim Patrons to kill this Twilight Drake, but you've invested everything into the board at that point, and you're sitting at 3 points of health staring down at 2/3. That's one of the nightmare scenarios that you could be in. So he has to go for card draw here and hope it works out for the best.
Yeah, what is he actually trying to draw here? What gets him out of the situation?
Second Execute.
Second Execute. Okay. It's going to be...
All right, one draw is so important right now.
Now he has to actually go through all the animations of these cards, and he's late in the rope. It's going to be interesting if he has enough time to get through this. And it doesn't look like he drew the Execute here, so it looks like Kranich is going to go up an early 2-1 here in this match.
Yeah, not enough time, not enough gas to finish this match off, and Kranich's options just too much. His control was picture perfect in this game, the entirety of it, and showing you that, you know what, this deck can be tackled, it can be dismantled, despite the fact that it's so powerful. You know what's rough against this deck? Gigantic taunt minions.
Yeah, you want to have minions that you could run Grim Patrons into and make more. What you're seeing is one of the decks that a lot of people have been talking about that has a very, very good plan and a very, very good game against Grim Patron in Handlock. And that's what a lot of the pros have been talking about is the answer to Grim Patron right now. So pretty fortunate that he queued that one up and Dog had the Grim Patron deck.
Yeah, with stuff like Control Warrior, you're going to see them have very different game plans than Grim Patron will. They're going to have 2 copies of Execute, of course, and then they'll almost always have 2 copies of Shield Slam in a position like that. So the fact that they can get those high armor totals, keep themselves protected, and then utilize those big swing turns with stuff like Shield Slam, all the mana your opponent has invested in these big minions can be handled. And they'll even have copies of Big Game Hunter in there sometimes. You know, 1 or 2 copies of them can be devastating versus a deck like Handlock. Grim Patron can't afford those options. It's got to dedicate a lot of cards to digging into your deck, finding the right options, and then trying to find big turns from there.
Yeah, we saw Dog do a ton of digging there in that match, and he couldn't find the right options, as you said. He couldn't find an Execute the turn he needed. He didn't have a Whirlwind effect the turn he really, really needed it to go off, and he had to keep playing defensively. When you're playing not to lose, you're not playing to win, and you saw it coming out that match where he couldn't actually get the win that game and fell to the Handlock deck from Kranich.
Yeah, Kranich going to go up 2-1 in this series now. It's match point for him, but Dog can still win, and these guys can play anything. We have no idea what they're going to do because there are no restrictions placed on these players. Guys, when we come back, it's going to be Game 4, Dog versus Kranich. You're watching Hearthstone on PvP Live.